Okay, in this tutorial we're going to explore several different ways to basically remove sky or to isolate an object from its background. So I'm going to start with this image of a field. Click View Image, copy. Let's move over to Photoshop and create a new project from the clipboard. Say OK and we'll paste. Now there are several different ways we can remove this sky. Let's start with one of them. I can use the Quick Select tool, which we've used in the past, in order to select the grass, and then over here press our mask, and now voila, we have basically removed the sky from this. Now the benefit of working with a mask is that we can go in and refine our mask edge after the fact. So this is a fantastic tool for creating quick isolations. Another way, so I'm gonna undo that mask, get rid of that mask. Another way we could do this would be to select the sky instead of the grass. Create our mask, and then use Command I to invert the mask. Sometimes this is necessary because the background is more simple than the foreground. For example, if there were many different colors in here, or bushes or textures, it would have been easier to select the sky and then invert it. So there's an alternative method. One of the old school methods is using the pen tool, and this tool allows you to create curves, and you would draw along the edges and then close off this path. This is a shape you're basically creating. Then I could right click this with the pen tool inside of my shape here and make selection. And from here, I could either use the delete key. Now, the danger of using the delete key is that you can never bring those pixels back without undoing everything. But that is one way to delete things. I prefer, again, to use a mask in this instance, and then we will invert the mask. So there's just another option of making a selection and isolating something from its background. Let's try this again with a different image. In Google, I'm going to search for tree, and we'll be using this in a later project as well. And I'm just going to select this super simple tree here, copy image, file new project, paste. Here's our tree. Now, if I wanted to put this tree onto a black background, just for this example, I'm going to paint bucket the background black. There are a couple different ways I could remove this white. Now, you could go through and use a quick select tool, but here's the issue. You have all these little isolated pockets of white in here, and that's going to be very difficult to select. So let's explore a couple different methods for this. One might be to go up to Select, Color Range, and then click on the white, say OK, and now create a mask. Now again, I'll need to invert this mask, so Command I. So there's one way. We have a lot of edges here that we need to fix up, but we could go into Mask Edge and use this paint process here to paint out all of these edges. And this is probably the higher quality way to do this, but if you're in a hurry and this is going to be a smaller element in your project, there's another way. So let's cancel, let's delete this mask. If I double click in the no man's land here of the layer, this will pop up. And what this allows me to do is, there's a bunch of stuff in here that I can do that you should rarely do because it looks terrible. But over here, this is what we're working on, blend if. So set to gray. What I can do with this layer is if I start pulling down this slider, everything that's above the slider starts to become transparent. So again, this looks really, you can see there's a lot of pixelated areas. This doesn't look great when you just use it that way. So what I'm going to do is hold down the Option key and drag. And what this is going to do is this is going to fade between these two colors we're moving. So I'll bring this down into here. Now I'll bring down the top highlights a little bit, and we'll start to try to find a happy area where we're not making elements that we want to keep disappear, but we are getting rid of the majority of this. So there you go. There's another way to do this. You can still see some edging here, which we could clean up in different ways. Let's explore one of those right now. So this is just a layer effect. If I want to make this permanent, I'll need to make another layer and merge these two layers together. So I'm going to select both layers and Command E, and that basically applies this cutout. Now we can go up here to Layer, Matting, remove White Matte, and we can do this several times until this starts to go away. Another option would be using Defringe. So with Defringe, what we want to do is try to figure out how many pixels does our image have in the white fringe around the edge. And it appears as though it's about 2 pixels deep. So I'm going to set my width to 2, say OK, and that got rid of most of it. There's still some there, so we could just repeat that defringe process. Layer, matting, defringe. Let's go with 3 this time. You don't want to go too far. And say OK. And there we've gotten rid of even more of it. So that's another option for cleaning up this type of selection in order to replace the background. Rarely ever would you swap from a white background to a black background. It's just too far of an alteration to make. So, you know, if you were trying to composite this tree into another scene, I would recommend you choose another scene that has similar exposure, something that's slightly brighter. All right, give this a try, and we'll see you in the next tutorial.